إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises are due to Allah, the Lord, the cherisher, the sustainer of the heavens and the earth. May His peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and his companions and his followers until the day of judgment. Whomsoever Allah guides, no one can misguide him. And whoever is misguided, only Allah Azza wa Jal can guide him. And I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah is his last and his final messenger. O you who believe, fear your Lord as He should be feared, and don't die other than in a state of Islam. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وذلك دين القيمة. And they were commanded to do nothing except to worship Allah with ikhlas, and to establish the prayer and to pay the zakah, and this is the upright religion. They were commanded to do nothing except to worship Allah with sincerity, with ikhlas. Brothers and sisters, today we're going to talk about a heavy topic. And it's something that when we hear about it, we don't think of it to be so heavy. But this is something that, if you're a Muslim, perfecting this is what will have you enter into paradise. And neglecting this and forgetting about it will have perhaps another direction in the akhirah. We're going to talk about intentions, being sincere to Allah, having the right intentions in the actions that you do. One of the scholars said that sincerity, ikhlas, if you take that out of any deed, that it is like a body in which a soul is taken out of it. What good is a body without a soul? There's no use in you burying it underground. That is the same of a good deed or an action that you don't have sincerity in it, or you don't have good intentions in it, then it's for no use. There's no use in it, there's no point in it. If we could live our lives and perfect just two things, it would be our prayers and our intentions. For everything that we do, that we have the right intentions for it. There can be two people who live parallel lives. They do the same actions, they have the same surroundings in two parallel universes. And one of them could be a person of paradise, and one of them could be the person of the hellfire. And what is the difference? Is the intention that they have in any of the actions that they do. The hadith that Imam Bukhari starts off with in his book, Sahih al-Bukhari. The first hadith, he says, عن عمر ibn al-Khattab رضي الله عنه إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فإن كان هجرته إلى دنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. And the hadith says, narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, I heard Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, the reward of deeds depends on the intention. And every person will get the reward according to that which he intended. So whoever migrated for a worldly benefit or a woman to marry, his migration is for what he migrated for. Now those who are familiar with the hadith may think that I missed a part of the hadith. Those who know this hadith might think that there was a part omitted from the hadith. And in fact, there is a part that is omitted from the hadith. In the first opening hadith of Bukhari, it doesn't mention the full hadith. And the full hadith, by the way, is mentioned in other parts in Sahih al-Bukhari. But this one has a part that's taken out. So when I came across that, I asked people about it. And I went and I tried to read a little bit about it to find out, why is the full hadith not here? Is it a different narration? And then I learned that Imam Bukhari, he believes that you can take out a part of a hadith as long as you don't change the meaning. So there was a part of the hadith that he omitted. The part that said, whomsoever migrated for Allah and His Messenger, then his migration was for Allah and His Messenger. Imam Bukhari took that out of his opening hadith, the preface for his book. And when the scholars, they come and they compile their books of ahadith, this first hadith is very important to them, how they're going to open this book. Why did he take this part of the hadith out? He did not want to claim that his niyyah was for Allah and His Messenger. Subhanallah. Imam Bukhari, who lived his life so that you could have the sahih hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He wanted to free himself of self-righteousness or praise, the praise for himself. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that deeds are according to their intentions. What does that mean? That means you will get rewarded for that which you intended, but it also means that the end result is not up to you. And you're not going to be rewarded or punished for the end result, as long as you put what you can in it. You find sometimes people organize events, and then only 2 or 3 people show up. And they're so upset about it. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. You're going to get the reward for whatever you put into it. You're going to get the reward for whatever you put into it. I was talking to some brothers in high school, and one of the brothers said, I heard that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I said, no, the road to hell is not paved with good intentions. The road to hell is not paved with good intentions. The road to paradise is paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with bad and evil intentions. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that the deeds are judged according to their intentions, plural. Because someone might do an act, and they might have many intentions. And they say that the believer, in one gathering, in one sitting, his intention could change 40 times. But the hypocrite, his intention never changes. Why? He's going to Jum'ah, on his way to Jum'ah, he thinks in the morning, oh, I have to go to Jum'ah, and he's going to go to please Allah. Then he's thinking of all the brothers, or she's thinking of all the sisters that she's going to see there at Jum'ah, and then their intention is to meet up with their brothers. And then they remember and they remind themselves, no, I'm going to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they see their brother sitting in the front row, and they say, oh, I'm going to go sit with my brother in the front row. And then they remember, no, this is you get the most reward for sitting in the front row. So then they remember and they check themselves. So they slip and they check themselves and they remind themselves. But the hypocrite, he always wants to impress others and to please others. So his intention never changes. Imam al-Shafi'i said, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that this hadith is 1/3 of knowledge. This hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, is 1/4 of knowledge. And the full hadith, again, and we'll narrate the full narration. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى فإن كان هجرته لله ورسوله فهجرته لله ورسوله وإن كان هجرته إلى دنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. So Umar ibn Khattab narrates that Allah's Apostle ﷺ said, the reward of deeds depends upon the intention, and every person will get the reward according to that which he intended. Therefore, whosoever migrated for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, then his migration was for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. Whoever migrated for a worldly benefit or for a woman to marry, his migration is for what he migrated for whatever it was. And the Prophet ﷺ doesn't even mention the specific thing. And we know this came from someone who made hijrah. They called him Muhajir Qais. He made hijrah so that he could marry a woman. Is this a bad intention? To get married? No, it's not a bad intention. But did he get the same reward for the migration that that the other companions who had the right intention got? No, he didn't get the same reward. You see, subhanAllah, people do an act and they do a good deed, or they do a deed, and they want so badly to be seen by others. Imagine the entire universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And then you zoom into our solar system. And you zoom in to this planet called Earth. this speck in the entire universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And then on this planet Earth, you zoom into our continent. And then you zoom into our country. And then you zoom into our state. And then you zoom into our city, right here in College Park. And you zoom in from College Park, you zoom into Coalfield House. And you zoom into Salat al-Jum'ah. And then this brother that's next to you, this person who's not even a speck in the entire universe, is the one that you're trying to impress other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The creator of all of this. The creator of all of this. SubhanAllah, people are very impatient. People are very impatient. There was a study on children. They wanted to see that if you can determine at an early age how you can determine how successful children will be when they grow up. So they sit children in front of a table in a room. And they put a marshmallow in front of the child. And they tell the child, you can have this marshmallow now, or you can wait for 15 minutes and you can have 2 marshmallows. Some kids, they sit there and they stare at the marshmallow, and then they can't take it anymore and they grab that marshmallow and they eat it. Other kids sit there and they wait, and they look at the marshmallow and then they wait, and then finally they wait long enough so that they could get 2 marshmallows. And they say that that's how you can determine how successful a child is going to be when he grows older. You see, subhanAllah, we are impatient. We want praise from the guy who's next to us rather than waiting for it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah. When the reward is far better from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إننا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا. And they say, we feed you for the sake of Allah alone. We seek from you neither reward nor thanks, for we dread our Lord's torment of a very distressful day. SubhanAllah, you see that people do acts just to get thanked by others. Someone does something and they didn't acknowledge them. They say, a simple thank you, that's all I wanted. Is that all you wanted? Because if that's all you wanted, then that's all you're going to get. If that's all you wanted, then that's all you're going to get. They do things just to please others. SubhanAllah, you let somebody in the car in front of you, you let him in the lane, and you want to make sure that he waved to you. Did he wave? I don't know, his windows are tinted, and you try to look to see if they wave to let you in. Because you're seeking your praise from others, from people. And you do acts, people do acts, and they want others to be impressed by them, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see people, they're making dua, and they make it in front of others so that they can hear them. Or they're making salah, and they're praying in a certain way so that others can be impressed by them. Is that the reward that we want? Is that the reward that we want? There are deeds that people will do that in this dunya they were done for others other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those are the deeds that on the day of judgment, they will be thrown into people's faces. They will be thrown into people's faces. Why? Because someone did them because they wanted somebody to be impressed by them. They wanted someone to be impressed, and they forgot that they were trying to impress Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of judgment, and this is a very scary hadith, there will be people who will be told, go and find those people who you did your deeds for. Perhaps they will reward you on this day. Go and find those people who you did your deeds for. Perhaps they will give you a reward on this day. So to do your actions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept a deed that has the slightest bit of contamination in it, that is done for someone else other than Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept those deeds. There are different levels of shirk. And subhanAllah, the opposite of having the right niyyah is ar-riya. That's why it's such a heavy topic. The opposite of having the right intentions is riya, meaning to show off, to do things for others. And there are different levels of shirk, of associating partners with Allah. And one of these levels is that when you do an act that you get energized because people see you. You might pray a certain way at home or in your class when you're by yourself. But then when others are around, when you're with the brothers or when the sisters are with the sisters, they get energized. They pray longer. They do more acts. Oh, there's something in the path. Oh, and they go out of their way and they move it. But if they were walking by themselves, they would never have even touched it. This is one of the levels of shirk and associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You find that people, they can do an act. They can do a good act. And they can be by themselves when they do it. And they could still have riyat when they're doing it. Why and how is this? They could be in their room, praying to Allah, crying, begging for Allah's forgiveness. And they think to themselves, oh, if somebody just walked through the door and just saw me in this state. Oh, if my mom just came in, just to tell. And then you find others who are in the middle of thousands of people, of millions of people. Someone might be at Hajj, in front of the Kaaba, and he's begging of Allah, and he's crying to Allah, and he's begging for Allah's forgiveness, and there are millions of people around him, and it is as if no one is around him. It is between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that the first three people who will be thrown into the hellfire, number one is a mujahid, someone who fought in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and was martyred in the way of Allah. Number two is a scholar. And number three is someone who gives in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the mujahid, the one who fought in the way of Allah, it will be told for him to go to the hellfire. And he will say, oh Allah, but I fought in your cause. I fought in your cause and I died for your sake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, you are lying. You fought so that people could say you were brave and that you had courage. And indeed, people said you were brave. And people said you had courage. So you got your reward. And the angels will drag him to the hellfire. And then there will be a scholar. And it will be told to take him to the hellfire. And he will say, oh Allah, I learned for your sake. And I taught for your sake. And Allah will tell him, you are a liar. You learned so that people could say you were a scholar. And people said that about you. So you got your reward. And the angels will take him to the fire. And then there will be another man. And he will say, oh Allah, I gave money in your safe. And he will say, you are a liar. You gave so that people could say that you were generous. And indeed people said you were generous. So you got your reward. And the angels will drag that person to the hellfire. SubhanAllah, we think that we have the intentions thing down. We think that when we're doing an act that it's automatically for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine Umar radiallahu anhu, when he knew that Hudayfa had the list that the Prophet ﷺ gave him of hypocrites. And he went and he asked him if he could see the list. And he said, no, the Prophet ﷺ entrusted me with this list. He said, well, at least tell me if my name is on it. At least tell me if my name is on it. Umar radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ar-riyat, this showing off. He said, it is like a black ant on a black rock in the darkness of the night. Something that you have to keep yourself in check for. Something that you have to remind yourself about and think about. So pay attention to your intentions. Reflect on your intentions. But also don't psych yourself out. I was here when I went to school here. And there was a brother that I was meeting after Salat al-Dhuhr one time. So we finished praying Dhuhr, and he came to me, he said, I'm going to wait for you outside. I said, okay. He said, I'm not going to pray Dhuhr. I'm not going to pray Sunnah, he said. I said, okay, I'll meet you when I'm done. He said, do you want to know why I'm not going to pray Sunnah? I said, okay, why aren't you going to pray Sunnah? He said, because when I'm at home, I don't pray Sunnah. So why now when I'm in front of all the brothers, should I pray Sunnah? He had the right thought to keep himself in check and to remember his intentions. However, that's not the end result that you should have. The end result is to do the act and to purify your intentions before doing the act. So try to purify your intentions, but still do good. Because this is one of the tricks of shaitan. He will tell you, oh, people are very impressed by you doing this, then you shouldn't do this. People are very impressed, oh, mashallah, you give a beautiful adhan. People are so impressed by you. And then you think to yourself, I'm never going to give adhan again. Or I'm never going to do this action again. There was a man who said that he was making salah, he was praying. And when he started praying, he heard the door behind him creak open. So he made his salah long, praying when maybe he has his khushu' face on. He's praying and made, after a long salah, he said, I turned around and saw that a cat had walked into the room. He said, I have khushu' like this for a cat and not for the Lord of the worlds. There was a time during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, and he asked some people came back from battle, and he asked them, he said, who died as a martyr in this battle? And they said, so and so and so and so, and they named all the martyrs from this battle that they remembered. And then they told him, they said, and there were others, but we don't know them. There were others who died, but we don't know who they are. Umar radiallahu anhu started crying. He said, what does it matter that Umar does not know who they are, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows every one of them? To do their acts, they're not doing their acts to impress Umar radiallahu anhu. They're not doing acts to impress those who are around them. They're doing their acts with ikhlas, with the right intentions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر لكم إن الله غفور رحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع ليوم الدين أما بعد. For the second part of the khutbah, we're going to go on a journey to Mecca. And you pack your bags and you get ready to go for Hajj. And you think the first thing that you want to pack and get ready is your niyyah, your ikhlas. You're going to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You pack your water, you pack your clothes, you pack your food. This isn't your typical, first class airline that we're going on. This is a long journey across the desert. And you take all the stuff that you need and you take it with you. And you imagine all the things that you're going to see, how excited you are to go to the Kaaba, to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. And you are going on this journey. And you think for some of those who have made Hajj or Umrah, think of how easy we had it. We had it very easy. We have the first class Hajj. We have the first class Hajj. And you find that others have made very long journeys. They're drained from the journeys, just trying so hard so that they can make it in their lifetime to go and make Hajj. When I was at Hajj, there was a brother who was with me. And he saw a man next to him. And this man looked like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. He looked like he had traveled long distances just to come for Hajj. Very serious looking man. By himself, just had a small bag with him. So he walked over to the man and he handed him an orange. This man looked at the orange and he looked at the brother that was with me. And he stopped and he almost started crying. And he raised his hands and he continued to make dua for this brother because he gave him an orange. So people have very long journeys. People have very long journeys. And we're going across this desert and we're getting very tired. And we're getting very thirsty. Thirst that we haven't felt ever in our lifetimes. So we go and we reach for our jug of water that we have packed. And after this long journey, you can't wait to take a sip of this water. And you open the jug only to find that it is packed with dirt. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, doing good deeds without good intentions is like carrying around a water jug that's full of dirt. What's the purpose of it? What's the point of it? of these good deeds that you're doing, but you don't have the right intentions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We work on pleasing Allah. If you ever feel like showing off, show off to Allah. Show off to Allah. You're very happy that you're doing a good deed. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about it. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deed that I've done, it's for you. SubhanAllah, and imagine if you were happy that someone saw you, imagine being happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watched you. Show off to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a story that I've come across and I've mentioned it in the past. It's such a beautiful story, I'm going to mention it again. There was, after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a drought in Mecca. And people got together, they prayed Salat al-Istisqa and they tried to get it to rain. They made prayers for rain and it didn't start raining. And there was a scholar and he opens his book with this story. He said, I was at the Kaaba and I saw a man standing at the Kaaba. And this is after people had made dua for rain and they were in a drought and there was no rain. He said, I saw a man, he was a black man. He said, and I was watching him. He said, and then this man standing at the Kaaba raised his hands and he said, oh Allah, let it rain as-sa'a as-sa'a. Right at this instant. Right at this moment. Oh Allah, make it rain. He said, as soon as that man made that dua, he said, I saw clouds start to form. And it started raining. He said, so I followed this man. And I noticed that he went into the home of one of his companions, one of his friends. So he went and he knocked on his door. He realized that he was a servant in the household of his friend. He went and he knocked on his door and he said, can I ask you a favor? He said, sure, of course, ask me of anything. He said, can I have one of your servants? He said, of course. So he went and he called one of his servants. He said, no, this is not the one, it's another one. He called another one. He said, not him. He called another one. He said, this is not him. And he called all of his servants out. And the man told the scholar, he said, no, this is all of them. He said, no, there's one more. So the man said to the scholar, he said, yes, there's one more, but this man, he said, you don't want him. He said, he's very weak. He's very sick. He gets sick all the time. He said, that's the one that I want. So the man said to the scholar, he said, no, please, anyone but this man. He said, the second he stepped foot in my house, there's been so much blessings in my house. So much barakah in my home. He said, that's the one that I want. He said, I love this man and I love you as well. He said, you can take it. So the scholar left with this man and they started walking back to the scholar's home. So on the way, this man asked the scholar, he said, you could have taken from any of the servants in my home, in the home that I was in. He said, why did you want me? The scholar said to him, he said, I watched you. He said, I watched you. You were at the Kaaba. And I saw you, you stood there and you raised your hands and you made dua for rain. And I saw the clouds form and I saw it start to rain. And you thought no one was watching. But I saw you. So this man said to the scholar, he said, do you mind if I pray 2 rak'ahs? He said, sure. So they stopped and this man prayed 2 rak'ahs. And when he was done, he raised his hands and he said, oh Allah, our secret together has been revealed. So take my life as-sa'a as-sa'a. And he passed away. His intention was not for anyone else. He wanted to have a relationship, just him and Allah. He wanted to have a relationship with Allah sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not for anyone to say, oh mashallah, look at what he's doing. MashaAllah, Allah answers his prayers. MashaAllah, look at the relationship he must have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To have the right intention. And on our way out, leaving Mecca, leaving from the Kaaba, I'm going to mention a billboard that I saw when I was at Hajj. And it reminded me of my intentions. And it's on the outskirts of the city, and it's on the street that's leaving the Kaaba. And I read this billboard, and it had part of an ayah in it. And it said, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ إِذَا نَسِيتَ. So remember your Lord if you have forgotten. And I thought to myself, subhanAllah, what a strange place to put this billboard. Of all the places on this planet, all the places on earth, this is probably the one place you would think that this billboard didn't belong. Everyone who's reading this sign is leaving the Kaaba. Everyone reading this sign is leaving the Kaaba. Who could have possibly forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's on this road? And then I remembered that to do your actions, not because we're robots and we're just doing actions, to do your actions with the right niyyah and the right intentions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, we can turn our little deeds into big reward that's based just on our intentions. We have things that we do every day, actions that we do that are mubah. So we have the levels, we have from fard to haram, things that you have to do to things that you cannot do. And right in the middle is mubah. Things that are permissible, you can do them if you want to. It's not fard, it's not haram. Like brushing your teeth, or tying your shoes, or going to sleep, or drinking a cup of water, or meeting up with a brother, or meeting up with a sister. And these actions are just mubah, they're permissible. If we spend our lives doing these acts of mubah, having the right intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we will be from among the successful ones. Imagine the one who has the right intention to please Allah before going to sleep. They want to sleep so that they can have energy, so that they can worship Allah, so that they can get up for Fajr. Imagine a third of their lives being put on their scale of good deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the Day of Judgment, because they had the right intentions. So turn these mubah deeds into good deeds by remembering Allah and purifying your intentions. And we're going to end with this last point, and inshallah this is our action item, and this is what we're going to take home with us. It's a saying by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim. He said, those who are closest to Allah are the ones who have their mubah turned into acts of worship and into a means of approach to Allah on account of their good niyyah, on account of having good intentions. They no longer have their mubah that is equal on both sides, meaning that it doesn't matter if they do it or if they don't, it makes no difference. He said all their deeds are leaning to one side, meaning they will go on the scale on the Day of Judgment, so that they can get good rewards for these deeds. So inshallah, may Allah allow us to be from those who do acts of mubah and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and purify our intentions so that we can get rewarded from them. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت. الله يأتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل.